I have had to restart many times in my life from a childhood where housing instability was constant and money instability was constant to an adulthood where I was trying to build myself up from scratch. When I was 18, I got out of an unfortunate environment and didn't have anywhere else to really go. And so I struggled. I managed to figure it out and got semi situated and got myself into a place and then let go, however you want to say that, from a job. And I had to struggle again and I had to figure it out again. I managed to get into some more work. I managed not to lose the place I was living, and bad things happened, and again I had to struggle. And so I've had to restart over and over again. I didn't know how to invest money, and that was part of the problem. I did have an emergency fund, and part of the reason I could restart each time was because I did have an emergency fund, and I had a budget. I was very frugal. I've always been very frugal. And because I didn't have debt. And having debt just makes it so much harder to actually get out of places of struggle, especially financially and but also emotionally. Like, trying to stay motivated when everything is like digging through sludge is hard. Eventually those times are temporary and you get back to a place of functionality, and you get back to, or at least I have always been able to get back to a place of functionality. I've had $0.00 before and managed to get back to functionality. I've had $9 left in my bank account, and that was literally the only money I had. Got back to functionality. Sometimes you hear people say, oh, I had all this money and then I lost it all and I had to get it all back and stuff. And then you find out that what they're saying is they got down to like 10K, or they got down to $1,000 or $2,000 left. If I had $1,000 or $2,000 left when I got down to like having nothing, I wouldn't be able to say I had nothing personally, but to them that's like nothing. And $1,000 or $2,000 is enough to like jumpstart getting back into functionality. In my experience, things might be a struggle, and it might feel like you've been going back and forth with struggle like for decades. Like, it's hard. It doesn't have to constantly be nothing but survival mode. Now, it's really important to know how to exist in a survival mode. I've met way too many people who can't, who just don't understand pulling back and having restraint, and it's temporary, that they're gonna have to live in a very uncomfortable way. I've met people who flat out got laid off, have $0.00 coming into their account, and still go out to eat every week, or ordering like nail polishes and clothes offline, or like getting things that are for like video games and for like, you know, their hobbies, and it's like, but you can't afford that. And they're like, well, I feel miserable. I'm comforting myself. And I get that you want to comfort yourself. 100% I get that. But you have to change your mentality into a more survival mode and be like, what are comforts for myself that I can do without spending money? Because buying things is only adding to your problem. It's not helping you get out of the problem. You're only prolonging how bad you're going to feel for a longer period of time. And in order to move out of like that place of struggle and into having some actual quality of life, you can't skip steps and just buy quality of life items while you're still in that place. You're just prolonging how long you're going to be in that place. For whatever reason, I am good at survival mode. I've always been able to survive things that are not normal to be able to survive. Like, near-death experiences, life or death situations, financially, like just again $0 or $9 to my name. I have just found ways to handle survival mode well. But because I had done that for such a long time and for so much of my life, it was a struggle for me to get to the point where I could transition into quality of life, into not having to live in survival mode. And I had to start with understanding that survival mode is not meant to be a way of life. It's meant to be temporary. We can't get around that. We have bad things happen, stuff comes up in life, and you've got to get through it. There's not another option. Like, you have to get through it. You have people who depend on you, or you have just to keep plodding along. And you can get really used to that. I got really used to that. I spent most of my life thinking of myself as like a draft horse who just is in constant labor and constant struggle and constantly going, but I can do it because I just keep plowing along and I have that kind of a strength and a strong back, and tried to take some measure of pride in that. But in reality, it's not actually supposed to be like that at a constant. And there's supposed to be a point where you don't have to keep doing that forever. And some people never reach that point. And part of it, I feel like, is because they sometimes are like what I was, where I couldn't even comprehend that this didn't have to be my entire life. Like, the concept of recognizing there were people in the world who didn't live like that wasn't that hard. It was pretty obvious. You can look around at, social media, or just around if you stand and people watch. There are some people who are not living that way. So it's really obvious that some people don't do that. Or maybe at the moment they're not doing that. Maybe they have before in their life, but they're not doing it right now. But it never connected, for whatever reason, in my mind that I could be one of those people. It never came to me that if they can do that, I could do that. And it took so long for me to get to a point where I realized that my capabilities were much more than just being really good at survival mode. Quality of life is funner. Allow me to just say that. Living in a functional way is less stressful. It is, more emotionally stable. You're not constantly worrying or feeling insecure. Financially, being stable helps add to emotional stability, and financially being stable adds to your ability to feel like you can be innovative, you can be creative, and it makes it so that you aren't exhausted all the time. Survival mode is exhausting, and I don't know who needs to hear this, but I wish someone would have told me that it's temporary. It's meant to be temporary. Survival mode is a thing that most people will encounter in their life at least once, but it is not meant to be your entire lifetime. And if it has been your entire lifetime up until now, there are things that can help you transition out of that and into something better.